Hey everyone, Mike here, and in this video we'll have side by side the HTC One and the Apple iPhone 5. Both phones definitely make an impression when handling them for the first time. On one side there's the slender and light iPhone with its metal and glass body. On the other there's the HTC One, in my opinion the best built Android handset of the moment, also with a metallic body spiced up by some glass and some ceramic coated polycarbonate inserts. Which one looks better? That's up to you to decide. Both phones are available in silver or black. Both use premium materials and both feel sturdy, although the iPhone tends to scuff off easily, so I'd say that the HTC One should be the more reliable of the two. But what's more important for me is how the two feel in hand. The iPhone is more compact since it packs a smaller display, and as a result it can be easily used with a single hand. The HTC is rather large, but because of some unique design elements like the slightly tapered back and the chamfered edges, it's still pretty comfortable. However, unless you really have big palms, there will be plenty of moments when you'll have to use both your hands to do certain things with it. Taking a look around the sides, you'll notice that none of these phones have a removable back, and the buttons and connectors options are quite limited. You'll get a power button that doubles as an IR blaster on the HTC, a 3.5mm jack, a volume rocker, and a micro USB port that also acts as video output. On the iPhone you get a lightning connector instead, plus a standard power button and a customizable toggle. Both phones feature cameras on the back, but more about this a bit later. The screens are the stars of the front faces. There's a 4-inch screen on the iPhone, a retina display, with an IPS panel, excellent contrast, colors and viewing angles. On the HTC there's a larger 4.7-inch display, surrounded by a black bezel. The colors, contrast and viewing angles are top-notch here too, but the Super LCD3 panel is a bit dimmer than the one on the iPhone, thus strong light visibility is going to be a slight issue. However, the HTC's display is going to be exceptionally good for reading texts, browsing and so on, thanks to its 1080p resolution, which leads to a whopping 461 pixel per inch density. You'll also find some sensors on the two front faces and some cameras for video calls. The one on the HTC can take 1080p clips, while the one on the iPhone will suffice to 720p, but both are more than enough for Skype and other such apps. Just under the screen there's the classic home button on the iPhone and a pair of capacitive buttons on the One, flanking a rather annoyingly integrated HTC logo, so you'll need some time to get used to their placement and functionality. But there's something else on the HTC's front face, the speakers. Those precision drill grills on top and below the screen are both housing what HTC calls boom sound speakers, and paired with the Beats audio software, the One can really push some loud and lively tunes. Those aside, let's focus a bit on the hardware and software. On one side there's the iPhone 5, powered by a dual-core Apple A6 processor with 1GB of RAM and between 16 and 64GB of storage, non-expandable. On the other there's the One, available in several configurations. We have the international version here, motorized by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 processor with 2GB of RAM and 32 or 64GB of storage, also with no support for microSD cards. In benchmarks, the HTC tends to outmatch the iPhone, with mainly one exception, graphics, where the PowerVR chip is still more capable than the Adreno on the HTC. But for me, and hopefully for you too, what matters more than these numbers is how the two actually perform during everyday use. And happily, I can say that both are very snappy. Of course, actually comparing them will be difficult, since we have iOS running on the iPhone and Android 4.1 Jelly Bean on the HTC. Each OS has its pros and cons, we're not going to get into details here. It's worth mentioning, however, that the HTC One is skinned by their Sense UI, which is now cleaner and more responsive than in the past. It adds a couple of goodies and apps on top of the stock Android interface, like BlinkFeed, a flipboard-like magazine for your home screen that integrates news sources and social signals, a new lock screen, app drawer and the notification panel, the Car TV and Kids Zone apps, and so on. You'll find more about this in my detailed review of the HTC One. Bottom point, both handsets will be able to deal just fine with your daily tasks, multimedia activities, games and so on. You can find plenty of good apps for them in the stores, and both are going to be snappy and consistent, although there's still some occasional jerkiness with Android. The two can deal with phone calls well, the noise cancelling microphones are doing their jobs, and the earpieces are loud and clear. I've had no problems with drop signal either. Both can handle 4G LTE speeds, but this might vary from country to country, and both offer Bluetooth and wireless connectivity with Wi-Fi AC support and NFC on top of that for the HTC. And then we should talk about the main cameras, which for many are a crucial feature. The iPhone 5 is already established as one of the best camera phones out there, with its 8-megapixel shooter capable of delivering sharp and lively pictures in good light conditions, with a tendency to oversaturate colors and rather limited results in poor light. You can also use one of the volume buttons as a shutter button on the iPhone, a feature that's missing on its rival. HTC took a different approach for the One with their 4 ultrapixel shooter. This one can only take 4 megapixel pictures, but the actual pixels on the sensor are larger. That, combined with optical image stabilization and an f2.0 lens, will offer good results in anything but fair light. In good light though, the images coming out of the One tend to be quite overprocessed and lack the fine details you're getting with the iPhone, and that's mainly because of the lower resolution sensor. The 1080p videos you'll get with the two cameras are more than pleasing, and I'll let you be the judge of which comes on top here. I'd say it's a draw. On the other hand, the colors look more natural on the HTC, and both the exposure and the white balance levels are accurate most of the time. And then you do get a lot more shooting options with the One, including tons of manual settings, HDR videos and so on. Plus there's an image editor, some Instagram-like effects and this thing called Zoe, which allows you to record 4-second clips that you can review later, select the best frames and save as pictures. Besides that, the phone can create a nice 30 seconds collage from several Zoes, but more about that in our dedicated clip on Zoe and the HTC One's camera. Of course, all this would be in vain if the phones would not be able to last long enough on a charge, and luckily that's not the case here. There's a smaller 1440 mAh battery on the iPhone and the larger 2300 mAh one on the HTC, both non-removable. With average use though, the handsets can go from 9 am to 12 am with something to spare. In fact, I can say that the HTC will outlast the iPhone by a small amount, but either way, the two will look for that power cable at the end of most days. Bottom point, both the Apple iPhone 5 and the HTC One are awesome devices, just a bit different. When choosing between them, you should probably first ask yourself if you need a phone with a large screen or you'd rather have something more compact. And then you have to choose between iOS with its responsiveness, simplicity and even dullness, or Android with its extra features and customization options. In my opinion, these are the two most important aspects that set the two phones apart. Anything else comes in second, including the cameras, the screen, the build quality or the looks. And then there's also the price. On contract, I believe the two are going to be pretty much on par. Off contract, unlocked, the iPhone 5 is going to be slightly more expensive, so keep that in mind as well. In the end, it's really up to you to take all the goods and bads and decide which of these phones is best suited for you. But I really have to tell you, although I'm a happy iPhone 5 user myself, if I were to switch to Android right now, the HTC would be my first option. It's just that good. Anyway, that's about it for now. Thank you for watching this clip and please leave your comments below. I'd really like to know which of these two would you choose and why. Also, give this clip a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel for more updates on the HTC One and all the other top smartphones of the moment. Cheers!